Okay. Good morning, everyone. Does everyone like the new plant that we added back here? Just adding more green. We have probably, I steward probably close to 120 plants between our home and the office. Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Yes, you can never have too many plants. That is exactly my philosophy. So let's just take a moment to arrive in our circle this morning. Um, Taking a couple of breaths together, long and deep. Allowing your nervous system to slow down for a moment, allowing your breath to find its way to every corner, every area, every part, every aspect and layer of the body, breathing all the way down beyond the root, breathing in the legs, the arms, the head, breathing presence back into the body, and allowing your brain waves to start to shift, allowing your brain to start to rest as your breath begins to rest. You may notice yourself yawning. That's always a good sign. It means the nervous system is releasing in order to ramp down. And as we allow our awareness to open back up, to include this body, to include the room you're in, allowing your awareness to become the spaciousness that is you, that is around, and that is all of creation itself. Yeah, there we go. And then also including our hearts here. Connecting in with our hearts, feel free to just place a hand on the heart. And for this class, I really want to invite you, if you feel comfortable, to go skin on skin. So placing your hand over your heart center here. Ah, really permissioning your heart to be here today. And just for a moment, see what it's like to fully allow your hand to receive your heart. As if your hand were gently, as if your hand were gently holding or just contacting your heart. What is it like for you to feel your heart being received just in this simple and tender way? Ah, really allow yourself to feel what that feels like in your body. So often when we touch, we think it's about doing or manipulating or moving something, right? It has a purpose. And what is it like to touch just here, just touching your heart? Ah, and softening that touch so that the touch is simultaneously receiving something. And keep softening the hand, softening the grip. So it's just resting there. And start to feel the transmission of energy from the hand as you soften. And then also see if you can notice in your hand as you soften and allow your hand to be almost as if it's a listening ear, waiting to receive. See if you can notice a transmission coming from the heart. Really allowing your system to open. If you notice your mind starting to think, am I doing this right? Or what's happening? Keep unhooking from the mind and bringing your awareness, your presence, right down here, back to your heart hand. Some of you may even be able to feel the cycling of energy that's happening from the heart out to the right, to the shoulder and down the arm and to the hand and back through to the heart. Our hands as extensions of the heart. Our hands simply as an expression coming from our heart out into the world. What is it like for you to experience your hand in that way? As a physical and energetic expression of your love? And as you realize that in one or both hands, what is it like then to bring that love back in and direct it back to self? When we take this powerful, simple, and gentle act of love and we bring it back to self, and even place both hands over your heart now. What gets to be here when we bring that love all the way back to ourselves? Hmm. What within you has permission to soften? What within you is trying to hide or resist? Can you invite any resistance, any tension in the body into this? Hmm. Hmm. And go ahead and allow your hand or your hands to slowly release from the body. And I'd love to hear from just one or two people in the chat where you can unmute yourself. What did you notice? Were you able to notice the transmission in both directions? Or sharing from a place of what did you notice in your body? If there was resistance or there was what was coming up in that experience of bringing that powerful act of love to self. Mm. And the reason why I want more gray, yes, I got you. Yeah, you felt an I got you when you had your hands there. That's great. Yes,
Imme-
Larry.
Immediately after you said about softening, I felt a powerful shudder through my body, and it
Mm,
was that circular, like a circular transmission that was happening. Although I have felt, the sensation of hands on the heart, but not in the same way that it's a circular receiving and giving from my hands.
mm,
And the heart transmission throughout my shoulder, down through my hands, back into the heart. That was a new
mm,
experience.
mm, mm.
Subtle,
Beautiful.
subtle, but
Yeah.
very powerful.
Beautiful. I see, Alana, yes, cycling of love, release tightness and grief in my heart. Patrick, it felt energizing to get to love for myself instead of having it spread thin among everything else. Yeah, beautiful. Resistance in my body is shame and fear. The full cycling of love brings a luxurious, peaceful joy. Ah, Ilana, go ahead and share that with us so you can connect back into that luxurious, peaceful joy. And when you connect with it, you can just offer it by just bringing your hands up to the group. Yeah. And anyone who wants to receive, yeah, can just bring your hands up and just receive and see if you can receive this luxurious, peaceful joy. Ah, uh-huh. Yeah. Thank you, Ilana. Yeah. Oh, so sweet. So I just want to remind all of us as we're here, thank you for all the contributions. One of my one of my favorite teachers, actually two of them, um, one of them being Thich Nhat Hanh, and the other one being Annalisa from Luminous. As you all know, I'm a Luminous practitioner, and so I've studied with her for a while, for the last 5 years or so, and an incredible human being, and both see the awakening as a collective experience. They see the next rise of enlightened consciousness, the next rise of Buddha consciousness, as not being an individual, but actually being a circle, being a community, being a group of people. Because as we awaken and heal along this path of light, we are such a deep contribution to one another. And each one of us has this original source teacher within us, and it is up to us to continue inviting that source teacher through our presence, through our voice, through our sharing, through our vulnerability, through our revealing. Last week, Ra spoke a lot about the power of being seen and witnessing, and that is an absolutely essential component to this path, is really revealing our hearts, opening our hearts to one another, allowing us to stay in connection, and then opening up our own authenticity with one another and sharing our truth. So thank you all so much for stepping and walking along this path with us. So today, excuse me. Today we're marinating in the field of touch. And so for some of you, this may bring up some material. This may bring up some parts of you that maybe have received touch in a misattuned way. As we go into this material, there might be emotions that are coming through. And I just want to invite everyone to just stay in connection with their heart throughout, and just in this circle, providing a space for everything to be here without judgment, without attachment, really just allowing the body and the body's wisdom to move through us as this reveals something true, maybe something that has not been seen yet, maybe something that has not been known yet. So really allowing our systems to remain open in this marination. So just start by being with what is the foundation that will bring awareness to the importance of some level of touch in most relationships. The foundation that brings our awareness in. So we can even just imagine ourselves as we came into this earth, as we were birthed. We all share this in common. We all were birthed by women. And so as we came through, in whatever way we came through, there was contact. There was physical contact as we were squeezed, as we were pulled out, as we were, in many cases, spiraling. That's the direction that the baby goes as it descends through the birth canal and out in birth, is it actually does a little bit of a spiraling to fit its shoulders through and emerge out of the birth canal. And what is the first thing that mamas do is they bring the baby to the belly, bring the baby to the heart, and touch for babies and for children is just as important as a nourishment as food. They've done a lot of studies in the NICU in hospitals. I remember hearing of a study many, many years ago, I think it was in Poland, with orphans. And they took half of the orphans and they treated them as they normally would, with food and nourishment and physical contact. Every day they would hold the babies and they would hold the young infants. And the other group, they would do everything to provide them with nourishment, with bottles to feed with, um, and a comfortable sleeping environment, but they didn't touch these babies, and many of them ended up dying. And the same thing happens in the NICU, where they realized that if they weren't picking up the babies every day and just leaving them in there and maybe just bottle feeding them directly in this NICU, where they have their bed and maybe they have machines hooked up to them and other things monitoring their health, if they didn't pick them up, many of them would end up dying. They would just stop breathing. And so I want us to just take a moment and just allow that to really sink in, just the importance of touch. There is a part of our primal nature that actually needs touch. And in relationship, right, when we hug, when we connect physically with one another, it helps us to bond. And physical bonding is such an important part of being human. And when we don't have physical bonding and physical touch, it's so much easier to get spun out in a mental process or in a loop. So I invite, just as a practice, right, as we practice at the beginning here today, of just bringing the hand to the heart, connecting with self, especially when we get into a mental loop, I find it incredibly helpful to connect just with my own body, Because the truth is, the nervous system, as it experiences the touch coming through, it doesn't process it any differently than if some safe and loving partner or sibling or friend were stroking your arm. It actually processes it the same way. So they know now from studies that even self-touch releases a large dose of oxytocin. So even hugging yourself and closing your eyes and just allowing, it's important to allow yourself to receive, right? Because we could be like, well, okay, I'm gonna hug myself. All right, I'm hugging myself. Let me just, yeah, good, great, good guy. Yeah, yeah, I love you. Like, no, right? Because that's like, I'm in the mental doing of it, right? Versus, versus just like listening to my hands and my body and finding a way that feels good. And then resting in it, breathing in it, being with the physical contact and allowing my nervous system to receive it. Ah. And if you keep dropping out of the mind or unhooking from the mind and coming into the body and staying with the breath, and getting with your interoception, right, which is the inner sensing when there's a shift in the body's chemistry, ah, you can start to feel a shift happening as it's happening. Maybe there's a loosening of your jaw, maybe you start to yawn, maybe your breath shifts, maybe you start to feel a different sensation in the body. And to be perfectly honest with you, bonding with self is just as important as bonding with other. When we do not bond with self, and that includes this primal animal way, it's so much easier to just get lost in someone else's energy, to get swept away. Inside of a relationship. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So this foundation is so important. I really want us all to get the importance of touch, of self-touch, self-connection, because touch, right? Touch fundamentally is a way we learned, our bodies learned to connect for hundreds of thousands of years before we had language, when we were still just telepathically communicating little bits of information among the clan or the tribe. There were no words. Everything was physical. Everything was tactile, right? You communicated your love with touch. You communicated your fear with touch. You communicated your anger with touch. You communicated your grief and your sadness with touch. Just imagining all the ways in which this body already knows, it's already programmed, right? It already knows how to communicate so much just through how we touch. And there's a huge area of the brain. If any of you are familiar with the homunculus, which is the map that shows how many packs of neurons are dedicated to a certain part of the body, and the hands take up such an enormous portion. And what that means for us is that there is so much informational compute power in our whole bodies and our whole nervous system for giving and receiving information through the hands, right? This is the fundamental power behind Reiki, massage, the healing arts, the hand healing arts, the work that I do as a chiropractor. There's so much information that we can receive through the hand, and there's so much energy and information we can send through the hand and offer. And as you continue just contacting your own body here, just offering a little bit more information, self touch has been shown in so many studies that it lowers our stress, it lowers cortisol levels, it improves sleep, it helps our nervous system shift, right? I'm noticing all the bodies on the screen, how they've shifted into a more parasympathetic state where it's more restful. And this is because, as I just said, touch is so ancient to our human bodies that it bypasses the rational brain, it bypasses the prefrontal cortex and goes right into the nervous system. So just like breath work, as I see us all breathing so consciously and with so much intent, just like breath work, this is almost like a cheat code. It goes directly into the nervous system. Hmm. And so let's do a little mapping from this point. So we all had our experiences, right? We all had our conditioning, our our culture as as like another person I love to read is sometimes Terence McKenna, and he talks about culture as just being one of the things that gets in the way of our own awakening and healing journeys. So the culture, think about the culture that we live in, the culture that you live in, and what is the culture, right? What do I mean by the culture? Culture is what, right? When it encompasses our morals, our ethics, it encompasses our regulations, our rules, our guidelines, right? The culture at school is all around this is what we do here, this is what we do here. We don't do this over here. We don't do this over here. Stop doing that. What are you doing? Right? It's telling us what's right and what's wrong. And just as important as it is to have cultural boundaries and cultural guidelines, simultaneously, it's not a black and white world. We don't live in a black and white world. I don't I don't see anything that's just black and white in this world. And so simultaneously, there's so much value to that cultural alignment, while at the same time, it's important for us to unhook so that we can start to see ourselves and know ourselves, right? In the 50s and 60s, the Cultural Revolution, where people were taking, LSD and other psychoactive agents, right? And so humanity was just cruising along. I'm just thinking of American culture right now, but our culture was cruising along inside of this boundary, right? Imagine I'm kind of trying to draw a tunnel. So culture holds a container, right? It holds a boundary. So we're just kind of cruising along inside this cylinder, right? Where it's holding the guardrails, it's holding the boundaries, and people would take these psychoactives, right? They would have these experiences that would kick them out, and they'd be all the way up here, and they'd be looking down at the culture, and they'd be able to see the culture for the first time, right? So imagine just thinking like the right way to go about something, right? I'm thinking the 50s, 60s, it's like, all right, well, if I'm going to be a good boy, I'm going to go work for the bank or the post office, or, maybe I'll become a carpenter and I'll save up my money, I'll buy a house, I'll get married, and I'll have 3 kids. And if I have a picket fence and I mow my lawn, every week and I'm a good neighbor, then that means that I've had a great life, right? And just think of the limiting view like that. Sure, that's one view, but when we're in culture, we're almost indoctrinated. We're enculturated. Is that a word? I would say we're just brainwashed, right? Like this is what we call brainwashing, where we're given a point of view and we're told this is the point of view, right? We're told this is the way. And you're like, well, what about this way? And they're like, this is the way. And you're like, well, what? This way seems pretty cool. I feel drawn this way. And they're like, this is the way, right? So just imagine that. So being in culture is as if, right? So, like, Ilana, what's your favorite kind of ice cream?
Raspberry Ripple.
Raspberry Ripple, great. Okay. So if I said, Ilana, here's life, it's coming at you. Do you want raspberry Ripple or vanilla?
I'll have all the flavors.
But what's your favorite?
Stop it.
Yeah, strawberry. So you would take strawberry, right? Right?
I want all the flavors. I
Yeah,
can't
but you
do I
have to
can't
pick.
I can't.
No, you have to
Oh
pick. You
no,
have to pick
no,
one.
no, don't make me.
Okay, I'm gonna make you. You have to pick one. So strawberry Ripple
Raspberry
or
Ripple.
raspberry
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 Ripple.
Ripple? Raspberry Ripple.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Enjoy. There's your life. Have a wonderful life. Enjoy. Right? And then we could keep doing that. And then I could go, Alana, are you ready? Okay. Vanilla.
Oh.
Right? And this
Okay,
is
I'll take
life.
the vanilla.
Right? Yeah, like, okay, fine. I'll take the vanilla, right? So being in culture, there's this happening all the time, and we're having to either resist it or choose it. And so where I'm going with this is that I want us to distinguish what's the culture around touch. What is the culture that we have? And I want you, as you're sitting here with me, like really allowing that internal inner teacher to start to guide and start to come through. Like, what was my relationship to touch? What did you, what were you taught about touch, or in what ways were you were you touched or been contacted with by your parents, by your siblings, right? I can remember for me, right? And usually the negative memories come through first, right? The times that we were touched in a way that we really didn't like. And I can remember like my mom, and she just loved me. And I get that. I didn't maybe get it then, but I really get it now. And she would just like take her hand and just rub it all over my face in a very misattuned way, you know, in a way that you would like grab an inanimate object, right? Like a teddy bear, or like an object that you loved, a pillow that you really loved, right? You just grab it, right? And so there was this complete lack of attunement in that touch. And then on the same level, she was also a healer and a body worker with her hands. So when she was working, her touch was incredibly attuned. And so just noticing, like, how were we conditioned around touch by our parents? When you were in your friend groups, right? Growing up, there were probably parts of the body that we weren't supposed to touch, right? That was the way it was. It's like, don't, like, there are just certain parts of your friends' bodies you're not supposed to touch. Maybe you were told there's certain parts of your body you weren't supposed to touch. And what was that like? What was the impact of that on the body when we're told no, right? I'm going to tell you all a little secret. Please don't tell anyone ever. I know this is going to be on the internet, but please don't tell anyone ever. My baby name was Noodle because I can't remember if it was my mom or my dad, but I used to touch myself all the time as, like, I guess as a baby or an infant, and they thought that was funny, so they called me Noodle because I wouldn't stop touching my noodle, right? So that was sort of like a light-hearted way. And then I can see, like, when, we're just in the bath a few nights ago, taking a bath with our kids before bed, and my son, who's almost 5 months old, right? Still really arriving in here, still very much just in his experience, right? He'll just be looking at you, and then his hands will be doing something else, and then his tongue will be doing something else, and then like the rest of his body, right? He's in the experience. It's like when you're in like a blissful, ecstatic experience, your body is just being a body, right? You're not trying to control it. You're not trying to manage it. You're not thinking, is this right or wrong? You're just in an experience. You're in the body. The body's having that experience, right? And so like he's sucking his thumb, and he's grabbing his penis at the same time. And it's like, wow, like I could see so many people being really uncomfortable with that and either like brushing his hand away or maybe even saying like, like don't touch your penis, don't play with yourself. Nope, stop that, right? And what is the message that sends to the being, to the baby, or to the child? What is the message? It sends the message that there's something wrong. And as a child, they can only relate everything to self because they don't understand that this isn't all one experience. They haven't individuated themselves and become, right? Their ego hasn't developed into this identity. So whenever there's something bad happen or something is wrong, they immediately take that on and they look and they think, oh, maybe my body's wrong. Oh, they didn't like that. Oh, maybe this part is wrong. And just notice, see if you carry any of that conditioning around touch, right? Like, what is it like to touch your own body? We started with, right, such a beautiful just experience of touching your heart. And what if we brought that same level of attunement and breath and permission to every part of the body?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, there's so much, right? We sometimes we carry so much shame and so much um, density of identity around different parts of the body. And it's like, what if we allowed ourselves, right? Because the hands are an extension of the heart. So it is an act of self-love. So the next time you're connecting with your own body, we're just staying with self to self right now. But the next time you contact your own body, see if you can keep remembering that this is an extension of your heart. And so as you connect, as you contact, it's your love, it's your heart, and it's your source of power that's connecting and contacting.
my
And so,
experience this morning. Yeah, my experience this morning of thumping my thymus in my heart and patting myself has set me up for the rest of today by just
mm,
acknowledging, I'm here, and I'm softening and I'm resonating with more of life and who I am.
mm, mm. Beautiful, Larry. Thank you. Yeah. And so each of you here and anyone on the recording, just, yeah, what is this shifting in you? What is this allowing or giving permission for? And if you're bumping up against, right, shame, if you're bumping up against areas of hurt or pain, don't bypass them. Just keep including them. We don't need to merge with them. We can just keep inviting them to be here, and to connect with the heart and connect with the love that's right here. And just notice, right, in this cultural conditioning, maybe at your work or with your clients, like what is acceptable for touch? For so many of us, right? What's
Oh.
acceptable is a handshake, right? Maybe if you're lucky enough, a hug is also acceptable, right? There's so much culture around touch, not in every country of the world, but certainly in America, because there's been such a lack of awareness in touch. And touch has created so much pain, right? It's created so much pain because it's come from a place of ignorance,
Ugh.
and that pain hasn't actually been met. The pain hasn't actually been met. There's so many examples of this out there in the world today. You can just imagine people who have been hurt, people who have been assaulted, people who have been taken advantage of, and how the world treats them. And this is why touch in America, there's such a strong level of culture around it because there's so much fear. And so just notice for yourself where fear shows up, because it shows up somewhere around touch. And you can just imagine, maybe in your relationship, maybe it's in your romantic relationship, maybe it's in another
Ugh.
relationship, right? Where we maybe want to give a hug, or maybe want to touch, and we're afraid. We're afraid to touch. And just noticing where that may show up for you. And simultaneously also looking outward, right? So when we view touch in the world, maybe it's PDA, public displays of affection. Maybe we're seeing how a parent is touching their child in public. Maybe they're being rough or aggressive with them. Maybe we're noticing how someone else is connecting with themselves in public. And just noticing if there's anything that we push away, ignore, or resist, or pretend isn't there. What is our view of touch as we observe it out there in the world? Right? Are there ways in which children or other people touch themselves, pick their nose, or pull their hair, and we think, oh, that there's something wrong with that, and we place
Ugh.
ourselves over or superior. hmm So as we approach our close for today, I want all of us to sit with the importance and the power of touch as it is this gateway into the nervous system, and simultaneously it is this act of love. It can be, right? With the right awareness and consent and intention and attunement. And I think our next class, I'm going to go more into the awakened qualities of touch. I didn't quite get there today. This is a topic that I love because this is such a big part of my journey in my life, and it's been such a source of power. And so over this next week, I want each one of you to continue remembering just the power that you hold in your hands and the love and that channel from the heart out to the hands. And maybe for some of you who are brave and who are generous beings, maybe find someone today to give a hug or to give a loving and intentional connection with your hands in whatever way feels good to you and to them, and with consent and all of that. But maybe find someone to share this with today as you start to realize your own power that moves through your heart and your hands. Thank you all so much for being here today. It is so much richer and so much stronger when we all come together and we choose to lean in, and we choose to explore within this container. So thank you so much. So nice to see all your faces too and hear your voices. If you want to unmute and say goodbye